Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the REDX Podcast. My name is Haley Johnson. I'm going to be the host today. I am so excited for today's conversation. We're going to be talking about some really important things that REDX is all about and that can help you get more listings. So it's going to be awesome. We're here with James Comas. Did I say that right?
You did.
Awesome. James, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Doing well. I appreciate you having me on here.
Of course, we're excited. You are a fellow REDX customer, so we're excited to get into some conversations about expired FSBOs, client acquisition, all of that good stuff. But before we get started, I just want to tell the audience that this is a participatory event. So if you want to ask James any questions today, he's here for the next half an hour. Be sure to chat him in, and we'll get him to answer those. Also, if you're not already subscribed, of course, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also listen to these podcasts wherever you like to listen. And also, if you want updates on when we have episodes and what we're talking about, just go to redx.com/podcast, put your email in, and we'll send you emails every week about the podcasts that are happening. All right, now that that's out of the way, James, why don't we get started for the people that don't know you? Just give a brief introduction, who you are and what you're about.
Okay, awesome. Appreciate that. So I actually been in real estate. I started in 2021. So currently an agent right now running a team. As soon as I have, I believe it's this December or so that I can start my schooling to get my broker license, hitting the 3-year mark. I've already hit the point criteria. So just waiting out some time to be able to do that and then see what direction that takes me.
Amazing. That's awesome.
And I can give a little background just because I think it'll be helpful about some of the client acquisitions that I want to talk about today. So as far as my background, I've always been a sales guy. Started in car sales, went to mortgages, went to software sales, and there was one thing that always kind of stuck out to me. And seeing the people that were successful as sales, it was always the ability that they had to always get clients over and over and over again.
Right.
So it's one thing that stuck out to me. And some of these people, I'll say, through my career of different sales organizations, some of these weren't the sharpest people on the planet. They really weren't. But what they did is they did have a system. They did identify what they needed to do day in and day out to be able to keep the client flow coming in. So that is something I really took to heart early on in my sales career.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's the name of the game, right? I think a lot of people get into real estate hoping that it'll be easy and that listings will be easy to come by. And I think maybe they were, especially when you first got into real estate. The market was booming. Everything was selling really, really quickly. And I think this market now is a little bit different. You really have to put in the work to find people that are looking to sell and then actually market the home well so that it does sell, all that good stuff. But I think consistency is the hardest part when people get into real estate and they can't keep that consistent pipeline like you're talking about. So why don't we get started in that? Like when you got into real estate, what did you do first?
Okay, great question. So the background with me, I was a Western region sales director for a software company. So I went to corporate America after doing mortgages, some other things that were more entrepreneur, self-employed. So I went to corporate America. I was in sales, selling software for about 4 years, went to management there. I was there in management for 10. When COVID hit, so early 21, I thought the market was going to go down. So I panic sold my house, sold it. I did not know that it was going to blow up and I could have gotten another 150,000.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I panicked, sold my home. And then there was me and another sales director that was over the East Coast, and they're just having us lay people off because of the customer attrition that we had. So they're having us lay people off. And I finally just called them one day. I called the other gentleman I worked with and I said, hey, the CEO, he's going to cut one of us. If you want the job, you can have it. You can take everybody. And so we hang up the phone. I call the CEO. I pretty much resign and I leave a job making $200,000 plus a year. but it was a pretty cush job. You have the salary, the company card, everything like that. So everyone's like, you are absolutely crazy for quitting something that you climbed the corporate ladder in, and you just literally just threw in the towel. You made a kind of a spur of the moment decision. And, in my head, after teaching salespeople for years and years and years and creating scripts and just understanding, if we make the calls, this is what that job, if we were to make the calls of these small businesses, we are to do it and have daily minimums where we make a certain amount of calls. Everyone's going to have different close ratios, but I knew that people would be able to succeed and people would be able to make a good living. So in my head, I'm like, you know what? I can do that exact same thing with real estate. I was thinking, I'm good on the phones. I don't have any pipeline right now. I don't have anything going on, but I'm going to knock out my license and I'm going to figure out how to make this thing work. So I get to work. I start taking real estate school. And at night, I would be laying in bed and I'm trying to think of my game plan, how I'm going to run my business. So at this point, I have no mentors. There's no coaching. There's nothing like that whatsoever. So I literally start Googling from my phone and I'm like, who to prospect in real estate to make real estate deals? Who to prospect? Because loans that I did, it was 17, 18 years ago in my early 20s. I didn't really think of for sale by owners, expireds. Like I just jumped in this thing and made a decision I was going to go sell houses. Right. So I start seeing these videos of Karosh. I run across like Ricky Carruth. I run across some of the other guys that I feel I've learned a lot from. And a lot of people are saying, well, you can call FSBOs, for sale by owners. You can call expireds. And so I listened to a couple of their thoughts and, I started listening to, or I saw REDX come up when I was doing the searches as somewhere just to get the numbers and the names. So I thought, okay, that's cool. So I start searching REDX and I come across the podcast. So on the podcast, I can't remember who this was. I should go back. It was one of the ones, I don't know, at this point, it's almost 3 years ago. So, and he's saying that he moved to another state and he labeled himself as a prospecting agent. He's like, I'm a prospecting agent. He's like, I completely uprooted my family, moved to another state, picked up the phone, and there was something where he had a couple $1 million in transactions in like 60 days. So I heard that and I'm like, this is amazing, right? Because where I came from, we would go sell software to small businesses that was $400 a month. Okay. Your goal is to sell one as a sales agent, and then everyone after you're making more money. So I'm like, they're going out, they're on a salary. They're selling this one software for $400, maybe making $1,000 a commission on top of their $40,000 salary.
Right.
So, in my head, I'm like, wait a minute, I call these expireds, these for sale by owners. I could help them even doing one a month. I'm thinking right around 10 grand a month on the average home that we have here in Utah. So I start going down that rabbit hole. I start writing down expired pitches. I start writing down FSBO pitches. I'm probably only 30 or 40 hours into my license. So I would do as much school as I could. And then I would start writing pitches, listen to YouTube, listen to audio podcasts or audio books, what have you. So I get out, I passed my test. I knocked everything out pretty record time. I was dedicated. I knocked it out in like 21 days of schooling, go and take my test, pass them both, blew myself away. I was like, I either missed every one or it was really easy. So somehow I get past it. So I go interview with a couple brokers and, it was basically just Googling, and I was just seeing like how everyone does the $1 million months. And I was just looking at the brokerages that had like a lot of rock stars, because I'm like, I'm going to go in there and I'm just going to mirror them and, be a sponge. So the brokers I'd meet with is one would say, okay, so, every Wednesday night we all sit around, we eat pizza and they do all this stuff. And in my head, I'm just shaking my head. I'm like, I'm not doing that. And, I go to another brokerage and they're like, what's your plan to get clients? You need to write a list of like 50 family members and call them all. You need to be here every day at this certain time. I said, I'm not doing that. So I go to another brokerage and I said, hey, this is what I need. I said, I just need your support. I need you to answer the phone. I said, I don't want to learn about real estate contracts or do this mentorship where you guys take money. I just don't want that, because that means nothing to me if I don't have clients. I'm like, I am going to be 100% focused on client acquisition When I get a client and I get a deal, then I'm going to learn that stuff on the back end. But as of right now, it's not relevant.
Right.
So, he kind of, and it's still the same broker I'm with. And so he's like, okay, I like this. So don't call you and just answer my phone if you call. I said, that'd be perfect. So very first thing I did, and I want to encourage everybody to do this if you're not, is very, very first thing I did is I set daily minimums and an absolute minimum that I'm going to do every day. And if you set a daily minimum that you cannot keep up every day and you're going to get burnt out, you're going to feel like a failure, right?
Right.
Like people, oh yeah, I'm going to make 120 calls a day. That's ridiculous. You'll never do that. Okay. So I just said, I'm going to make 1 hour of calls per day. If I have time, so let's say I don't have any appointments or anything going in the afternoon, I'm like, I'll do a second hour in the PM before I wrap it up, fold my laptop, call it a day.
Yeah.
So that was my goal to start with. So I buy REDX, right? And I can't remember the package I've set it up a few times because you've made some changes and stuff to it, like the expired pluses, and I added FSBOs and some other things. But the price the first was like $300. So I go into my broker all excited and I'm like, hey, look, this is my game plan. I'm time blocking these times. I'm going to get this thing. Have you ever heard of I asked him that. Have you ever heard of REDX? I'm like, they have the names and numbers and everything. And him and another top salesperson, they're like, yeah, don't do that. I'm like, why? I don't get it. Why? And he's like, you don't want to pay $300. He's like, we had a couple people do it. They didn't have any success. And they're talking to someone that I'm like, I've made a living just off making calls and setting appointments. So in my head, I'm like, so I still don't know to this day. I was telling Haley this before we started the show, but I still don't know to this day if they were just saying that so they didn't have somebody else muddying the water, or if these people truly didn't have success with it. Okay. So despite what they tell me, I go home, put in my credit card information, get it. And I'm legit. I'm just pumped. Like I'm freaking excited. Okay. The housing market's starting to take off. So what happens is a lot of people, there weren't very many expireds.
Right.
Because everything's sold.
Yeah.
It didn't matter if they were overpriced, which is the main reason we see expireds as a pricing conversation. So there wasn't very many expired. There was 3 to 5 FSBOs popping up per day in the Wasatch Front. So I immediately started calling those and just having a very, very simple pitch. And it took some refinement, but when you make these calls, figure out the main objections that you're receiving and write down these objections. When you write down these objections, figure out how you're going to create what's called a response blocker. So what are you going to say in your initial pitch to make it where you have a very small chance of that objection actually coming up?
Okay.
So hopefully that makes sense. It's a very common sales technique, but it's a response blocker. So everybody on my team now, and I coach, I'm like, you have to have your response blockers, right? In FSBOs, it's going to be, they don't want to pay an agent. So how are you going to design that in your pitch where your, data out there shows that an agent, a well-qualified agent showing your home is able to net 11% more than you selling it by yourself, which I would imagine you would rather net more money and put more money into your account. Does that sound about right? So you're putting these different things in the pitch, right? And then you're going to always want to find a sense of urgency. So why now? So you have to say right now, or they're going to say, okay, you're going to pitch them. You're going to try to set an appointment. They're going to say, oh, well, I want to, let's just see what happens. If I don't have anything in a week or 2 weeks, we don't have any showings, call me back. We'll talk. So you have to have something in your initial pitch to make it say that you don't want to wait. Right. So I can talk a little bit more about that, but I start calling these FSBOs. I write down my objections. This goes on for a week, not getting any luck. I write down my objections. I'm like, okay, sales 101. I'm going to put response blockers in my pitch. I'm going to start doing tie downs. I'm going to start gaining agreement. And then all I'm going to do on the phone is just set the appointment. I just want to get in front of them. So I get to work the second week. I start setting appointments. So I'm like, you
Let's
know,
go.
yeah, let's go. I'm like, I can't believe this. The first one blew me away. True story. Absolutely blew me away. It was a house. I live in Sandy, Utah. This lady lives in Sandy. I called her, and some of these are going to be luck of the draw. I used to use this old saying that every blind squirrel can find a nut. Because if you are making these calls and you're making the motions, there's some that are just the lay down. Like you just get it because you called.
Right.
The majority of them, you're going to have a pretty compelling story and make them feel comfortable, speaking with you, meeting with you in person, and have enough conviction that they feel they need your help. So I got this lady to meet with me, and my mind's blown. Like I'm calling some people I know. I'm like, yeah, I just talked to some lady into. She's meeting me. She wants to sell her home. It's $750,000. Blah 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 blah. So I go out to her house. She didn't really question me. She's just like, I'm moving out of town. She's like, this was an inheritance. I'm hopping on a plane to go to Oklahoma. I'm gone. She's like, the front room needs repainted before we get pictures. I'm like, cool. I'll come over tomorrow. I'm going to paint this thing for you. We're going to get it listed. So this was the heyday of when COVID started. So of course we list it, get all these offers. It goes like 40K over. So I start doing more of it, right? I start getting more FSBOs and more FSBOs and more FSBOs. And like, I made this system where I'm like, sorry to the people in Utah listening to this, but I literally made a system like every day, no one will beat me to a FSBO. Or at least I'd say they will not go one FSBO untouched. There's a certain time in the morning that I call them for, if you want to know, it's 9 a.m. I think anything earlier than that, people are trying to get kids off to school or try to get their day started. So I call every day religiously at 9 a.m. And I'm like, I will not go. There will not be one FSBO untouched. So I kept going at that rate. And something that I want to add to everybody that's a compounding effect is your SOI. Everybody in your SOI knows another agent. They do. It's not as saturated as people think. Because anyone, the people that just got their license, people are going to say you're crazy. They're going to say everyone knows a real estate agent. They're a dime a dozen, and they try to rain on people's parades.
Right.
Our social medias have a lot of real estate agents because that's what we're in, right? That's what we do, and we've networked with other people. So I say this because a lot of agents, new agents that I see, are always posting market reports. I want to do a free home evaluation. That stuff will be very, very, very minimal traction. What gets traction is them seeing you actually doing. So you're actually posting pictures of your sell signs in people's yards. You're actually posting you at closing with happy customers smiling. So I say that because making the phone calls, if it's FSBOs, expireds, what have you, circle prospecting, making the phone calls are hard, but they're what gets the ball rolling. You have this huge boulder, and it's like, I'm trying to give this thing a push, and I'm trying to get this thing rolling, because the more speed it gets, the easier it is to be able to overcome obstacles. So a lot of people are in their head, they're like, hey, to get this ball rolling, I'm going to take the very easiest path I can take. I'm going to post some stuff on social media. That's going to get this ball rolling. Most of the time it doesn't, because people just identify. It's like the guy screaming, hey, I just got my dental license. I'm a dentist. Does anybody need a root canal done? Or does anybody have like a cavity I can fix? And you just saw him graduate dental school 3 days ago. There's no way you're going there. So I say this because the faster people can get out of their comfort zone, the more success they're going to have. To me, I picture this comfort zone where it's this like little circle that we're living in when we get our real estate license. It's this very small circle. The larger your comfort zone gets and expands, you're expanding into more income, you're making more money, right? Mm-hmm. And so you're in this little teeny circle. And like mine was this big, it might be a little bigger now, because when you step outside of your comfort zone, you stay out there long enough until you get comfortable. And then that becomes your new comfort zone. There's the 90% attrition rate in real estate, which I find is fascinating. Right. I knew that right when I went into it. I'm like, this is a 10% chance I'll succeed. Yeah. But if you do what 90% of other people won't, you can be in that 10% and you can survive. So I see a lot of people me and Haley were talking this before the call, and people will make 4 calls, 5 calls, 6 calls, maybe 10 or 20, and they get discouraged. And so I look at it as far as someone poked their arm outside their comfort zone. Maybe they stuck a leg out. They're like, oh, it's cold out there. It's uncomfortable. They roll the window right back up. They're in the same comfort zone. The results are going to stay the exact same. So you have to completely step outside of that comfort zone. And it's not just making calls. There's a lot of ways you can generate leads in real estate. If it's a BNI, if it's networking events, if it's co-branding with businesses, there's a million different ways, but you have to step outside of that till you become comfortable. Once you're comfortable, you have to step outside of that again, because the people that are killing it in real estate and the people that have been doing it for 10 years, that are moving 100 houses a year, you could put 30 of my comfort zones inside theirs because they have expanded theirs that big. So, I kind of put that in my head every day. As far as once I feel comfortable, I'm like, okay, well, how do I step this up? How do I get back out and challenge myself? Because that's what keeps us motivating, is setting challenges and then knocking out the challenges.
I like that. That's a good mindset to have. I was just thinking, because of what we're talking about, how people just want the easy way out and don't want to cold call. And that's why when people are marketing things for real estate agents, they'll say in their subject lines, like, get listings without cold calling. And it's effective, right? Because real estate agents just want to avoid the phone. I mean, it's our nature. And why you had a leg up is because you were in sales before. A lot of people are not in sales before they get in real estate.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, wait, this is a sales role. I have to actually get on the phone and talk to people. And that is going to be the most effective way, like you said, to get the ball rolling, right?
It is. Yeah, you're spot on in that. And it's interesting how many people I talk to are new agents or someone that new that joins my team. And I'm like, hey, what got you in real estate? And they say, oh, well, I love houses. I love design. I love this. And I'm like, hey, that's great. That can definitely help. And then I start talking about the sales aspect and they're like, oh, no, I'm not a salesperson. And there's going to be an exception to every rule. But if someone's already closed the door saying, I am not a salesperson, the likelihood of them honing that craft to have success, and what I say is, we're in the best sales job out there. We're dealing with the highest prices, one of the highest prices in any sales with the highest commissions, right? And it takes a lot of proving credibility, having a pitch, overcoming objections, being able to keep emotions in check. There's so many things that come to it. And if you read what it actually takes in real estate, or if you write it down and you think about it, that is just the legit epitome of sales, right? Like, we are salespeople through and through, the ones that are being successful. So, Haley, to your point, even a lot of the FSBOs right now, and expireds, right now, my bread and butter is expireds. I can talk a little bit more about that if we have time and why they are right now. But what I'm going to say is, I call these people and they say, oh man, even if you call right at your time, to be the first one's rare. So you're going, oh, you people are relentless. Oh my gosh. I've already had 6 people reach out to me. And most of the time, I say, oh yeah, I say, hey, I may know them actually. Who reached out to you? And they go, well, let me read the text. This is key. People are scared to pick up the phone and call. And so a lot of people prospecting, quote unquote, are doing it by a text message. Like, in a text message, I'm not saying it will never work, because there's going to be someone listening and they're like, I make a living on texting and I think it's awesome, right? I think that's cool. I know there's strategies behind it. It's a preferred method of communication in 2023. Talking's a lost art. I get that. But if you really want to come across with a sense of urgency in your voice, you want to have conviction, you want to separate yourself from other people, you need to be able to pick up the phone and speak intelligently to that person. And it doesn't come naturally, but the more conversations anybody has, the sharper they get. And you're able to build response blockers. You're able to create urgency, and you're able to ask for the appointment, and overcome objections and re-ask for the appointment. So in text, I just figure it's like all these other people are going into this battle with guns that are willing to pick up the phones. And you have these people that are going in there with a knife. They might win a couple battles, but you're not going to win that many. unless you're willing to, to make those calls. So
Mhm.
my time blocking, like I said, and I'll tell anybody, our schedules change, right? Because
Yeah.
we have you get 3 or 4 listings at once, 7, 8, whatever, thrown a couple buyers, and your world is just a mess. Like you're like, I probably, the days like that, you work 7 a.m. till 10 at night. Okay. So it's hard to keep these prospecting hours. I call no matter what between 9 and 10. No matter what, it's became a habit now over the last few years.
Hmm.
It's something to me that's a non-negotiable. Someone could call me and say, hey, there's this house I absolutely have to have. I'm willing to throw everything in. I want to buy it, but I need to see it at 9 o'clock. People are going to think this is crazy. I say, unfortunately, I'm busy till 10. I can show you anytime after 10 because that's how important it is for me to keep my pipeline moving and keep my client acquisition pipeline moving right along. Because a lot of people in real estate, right, you're going to have your big ups, they have their downs. You see people close a lot of deals and they have their downs. And I'm convinced it's because when people are actually out looking for deals, they're having conversations, they're talking about real estate, they're networking, you get results from it. People have maybe a couple deals in escrow. You have a buyer broker signed. You have, you just got a new listing agreement signed. People let off the prospecting gas pedal. They get out of the left lane on the highway. They pull over the right lane and they're just like, that big relief. You're like, oh, it feels so good. Now I don't need a prospect. I'm just going to close these deals out.
Yeah.
It's really easy to do, right? But how I've always thought of this, and this may be a funny analogy, but like I think about it as far as when you have deals going, or you just got an ERS signed, you just got a buyer broker signed, you have a couple deals in escrow, you have a closing this week. That's when you're bulletproof. Like my analogy is like playing Mario when I was little. Mario Kart's a good reference, and you get the star, right? So you have that star and you can just smash people. Like you can hit people, they explode, nothing hurts you. You're invincible. Those are the times that you need to be calling. So the times that you've just got the deal, you've just had success, you have a closing coming, you have mini and escrow, people can say whatever they want to you and they're not going to hurt your feelings because you're on a high. You're like, oh, you hung up on me. You told me to get a real job. And you're thinking, yeah, I'm making $50,000 this month. It doesn't even affect your mindset. But when you go in desperado mode from letting off the gas and pulling over to the right lane, you're going 5 miles an hour and someone throws a little rock out in the road. It's going to take you to a complete stop. So I always encourage people, prospecting is or any client acquisition activities. So if you have network meetings, you volunteer somewhere, whatever it is, you don't get deals and just quit doing that. Or you're always real estate will be such a roller coaster. You're going to want to get off the ride no matter what. So It's trying just to even out that roller coaster, not to have the huge up and the huge downs.
I think that is one of my favorite things that you said, is because when things are high and you're doing really well is when we slow down, right? That's like, oh, I'm good. I don't need to prospect today or whatever. But everything that you do today is going to impact you in 90 days. So we need to have a little bit better vision of the future. Because things are great right now, but will they in the future? And I love that you always have to consistently be filling your pipeline and you guarantee success. Like you are calling every day at 9 o'clock, you will have listings for the rest of your career, right? Like you will have business coming because you commit to that time. So I love that. We are running out of time, and I feel like we could just keep talking about this stuff because I love it. And it is so like, I love talking to agents who get it, right? Who are just like, you have to put in the work. You have to consistently do it. And because there's so many agents out there who just want to make excuses and want it the easy way out. But success is not easy. It's not the easy way out, especially, I mean, you joined real estate. It's not going to be a walk in the park. But
yeah.
Before we close out, do you have any final words? Maybe also tell us where people can find you also.
Okay. I have just a couple things to leave that are nuggets. I'll try to be very quick on this. So
Okay.
Haley talked about success. One of my favorite quotes that I've lived by for 20 years in sales is success is never owned. It's only rented, and rent is due every day. So you're never going to just find success and then just completely let off the gas and lean back and, go outside and be a gardener or go hiking for the day,
Right.
because that success is going to start dropping off very quickly. The other thing I want to add is I encourage everybody that's listening to do the 3% rule. So the 3% rule is invest 3% of your time during the day in learning. When I say learning, not learning about a REPSI or time clause addendum, but learning about client acquisition, learning, read a book. Fanatical Prospecting's amazing. Read books as far as to sharpen your sales skill set. Listen to real estate YouTube videos, podcasts, whatever information you can learn about how people pull in clients. If an 8-hour day, you use 3% of your time, it's only 15 minutes. If you make $120K a year or any annual amount, invest 3% of your income into being better. So what I was going to say on that is $120K a year. That's only $300 a month. Invest that $300 per month into growing your business and getting better at client acquisition, making it where you get better at deals. Because once you know that you can generate at least one listing every week, and you're like, I know every year I'm going to make $100,000, $150,000 just from prospecting, not including my SOI, repeat, referral, other lead sources, then you never really get that stressed about real estate. And it sounds crazy. It's just like, I know I can pick up the phone and, in 2 weeks, I'll have 2 or 3 listings going live. Obviously there's a little more. You meet with them, it's pricing conversations, things like that. You have to get kind of the stars and moon to align. And people are probably thinking, this guy's crazy. It's not that easy. It is that easy. It truly is that easy. You just have to do it religiously, day in and day out, know where you're getting hung up, and then figure out how to fix it. Don't just do the same thing where you're using the same pitch, saying the same calls. So hopefully that helps.
I love that. Thank you. James, where can people find you if they want to learn more or
get more
from
that. You? So just my Instagram or my YouTube coaching channel. It's called To the Top Real Estate Coaching. If you search that on Instagram, YouTube, you'll find me. Right now in this market, expireds are the bread and butter. There's about 20 popping up per day where I'm at because we're in a slower market. Expireds is where I've been making the majority of my income. Episode number 1 is 45 minutes long. It shows in depth what to say, how to set up response blockers, how to overcome objections, how to set appointments, how to walk the home, right? How to get the contract. It shows every single step in there. A girl joined my team. I'll leave it at this. A girl joined my team named Crystal. She was in real estate a year. She did 1 deal. She asked a question on one of the real estate boards. It didn't make a lot of sense. I messaged her and just said, hey, I'd love for you to join my team. I don't know how I said it, but I was like, you shouldn't have questions that simple being a year in real estate. But anyway, so she joined my team and I said, just watch episode number 1. Do that. That's going to be your first start to getting leads. She started on a Monday. By Wednesday, she's had 3 appointments. We closed all 3 of them. Okay. I ran with her. We closed them between Thursday and Friday. She has over $2 million in listings. 2 of those are going live today. And so that is that's off episode number 1 and just breaking it down, because anyone in the world can say, call expireds, call FSBOs. It's like, they can get you pumped up. You're excited. You go to pick up the phone. You're like, what do I do? And you're back to square one, right? So this is actually piece by piece. It'll go through it. If you have questions, reach out to me on Instagram. I love helping people and guiding people. So I'd love to help anybody out.
Awesome. James, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast today. We'll have to have you back on because I feel like I want to dive so much more into expireds and even just for sale by owners and everything that you're doing. But thank you so much for spending that time. Thanks everybody for coming and tuning in today. And for those that will listen to this afterward, wherever you listen to podcasts, we are here every single Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Mountain Time. That's 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time if you want to check us out further. Also, we will have James' links and everything below. So if you want to find everything that he just said, I think it would be awesome. Like the 45-minute just nuggets of expireds and everything sounds amazing. But thanks again, James. Thanks everybody for watching, and we will see everybody next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks.